Hello, everything is fine. I hope so. I'm going to bring you another chapter of this incredible story. First, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share with your friends. Let's go to the chapter. Chapter 3. The Women's Bathroom. While that crazy woman was pulling me, I looked at the distressed friar. He seemed to want to say something, but we continued on our way to the friar's room. When I arrived, I saw a woman approaching us, and it looked like I knew her from somewhere. She started saying something, but I could barely manage it. Listen to the security guard's chatter. We arrived at the friar's room, and he was very surprised by the commotion, looking at my face. He seemed to be a good man with fine features, a tired look from years and years of hard work and dedication. I noticed that his habit was a dark, leaden black color. It brought an air of superiority to him, and his hood was thrown back, covered by another black cape. Security only had to take me down at the friar's feet. I was almost naked in front of him, dying of shame. "What a mess this is in my room. How dare you enter without being called Lady Helga?" "Sorry, priest, but one of your brothers was in danger. I found this shameless woman on top of the poor friar doing I don't know what in the men's bathroom." I looked at the friar's face with his face flushed. He was looking at my almost torn dress, and I was trying to hide my almost bare shoulder. He seemed very embarrassed. The confusion was so much that I didn't know where to put my face. Everyone was looking scowling at me. Others looked on curiously, until some friars and sisters gathered at the window of the friar's office to see what was happening. The confusion was so great that I was actually almost naked, and I was surprised that the young friar didn't look at me. He wasn't like the other men who took the opportunity to get a cone. He wasn't because he was so ashamed that he shook his head. I bent down and noticed her red face. It was actually cute, and I stared at him. But suddenly the fat girl just had to rip off all my clothes, almost humiliating me. So I gave the floor. "I'm sorry, friar. I had a big misunderstanding." I tried to explain myself. "Shut up. You're in a lot of trouble, you naughty girl." "Ah, if you were my daughter, you'd be beaten with a strap," said the security guard, still holding me by the arm. "That fat girl would be my cross in this place." I'm not making a big mistake. The woman who accompanied us tried to speak, and I was almost sure I knew her. "Everyone please shut up," ordered the friar seriously, looking at me. "Come on, Helga. Let the girl go. Let her explain herself. You're almost leaving her naked, for God's sake, my young lady. First tell me who you are and what do it here in a convent. Do you want to enter the monastery, young lady?" Security released me and I straightened up, almost laughing when he asked me if I wanted to be a nun. Then I composed myself and looked at the good friar and started talking. "Firstly, priest, my name is Alana Gabriella Blake. I am the mathematics and languages teacher, and I came for the interview that was scheduled with you today." Everyone kept their mouths open, remaining completely silent, as if they wanted to be sure of what they had just heard. The security guard kept looking me up and down, scratching his head, while the other monk kept his mouth open and his face flushed with embarrassment. I didn't feel pressured by their reaction because I was already used to it. I attracted a lot of attention to a woman who was almost 1.56 tall and had natural red hair and was small, but I only looked fragile because I was a strong woman and I caused that to people. But the friar approached me, took my hand and said, "I apologize profusely for the embarrassment you experienced. I humbly ask that you forgive our security and our novice for the misunderstanding." "Are you okay? I see you're pale." I wanted no one to know that I was having an asthma attack. I had already attracted a lot of attention, so I looked at the friar and noticed that he was trying to force a smile. He was different from any man I had ever seen. At least he was much taller than me. And I loved tall men. He must have been around 180. He had greenish eyes, at least it looked like it, his square face and his nose. Perfect. Wow, he was very handsome. He reminded me of a Spanish man. What I wanted to see was what his hair was like. Because of the little hat, I couldn't see it. "No, it's okay, friar. Let's forget what happened," I said to the friar and looked at the young friar with different clothes than the older one. I noticed the curious looks on me. especially from the fat security guard who looked me up and down, fixed her hair a little awkwardly, and apologized profusely. Well, I'm sorry for my behavior. If I was rude, I got hurt. I thought I was a delinquent. A perverted pervert. Except Lady Helga. Control yourself, don't pay any attention to her, young lady. I apologize for that. Lady Helga still thinks she's in a military war camp, so anything suspicious she attacks. I'm really sorry. When he said that, I just smiled at the fat girl and remained silent. Teacher Kyung soon got up and introduced herself to me. Then the friar took the floor and introduced me to her. Alana Blake. As you already know, almost everyone. Professor Kyung-soon, who teaches history. Our security guard who supervises the institute. And finally, I want to introduce you to our brother Claudio Hernandez from the Miracle of Jesus. He extended his hand to me and I shook his hand tightly. We looked at each other and he said with a charming smile, "Nice to meet you, Alana Blake." I smiled, and he immediately let go of my hand. I could see in his eyes how embarrassed he was as he barely looked into my eyes. "Claudio, you will be responsible for showing the entire orphanage to Mrs. Blake. Can I call you that?" the friar asked in a melodious voice. "Call me Alana and Miss. I'm not married to a friar," he said, tucking a strand behind his ear, looking at the young friar. And he continued, "Will you show me the whole place, and will you show your rooms at our institute as a sign of my apologies, Miss Alana? Would you like you to accept the position of professor and live here with us?" I was very surprised by the friar's decision. In fact, I didn't expect it, even though I was worried about looking for a place to stay. I had researched apartments, and they were absurdly expensive for my budget. But living in a convent wasn't in my plans yet. More after what happened to me. A tragedy that I don't even like to remember that made me leave school for a year. But I wanted to forget about it all and start a new life. So I accepted. The priest explained to me how the rent would be deducted from the little room and asked the young friar to show me my new temporary home. The novice took me to my quarters. I followed him down a corridor towards the bedrooms in dead silence. I looked at him, and I couldn't deny that something about him caught my attention. He was walking with hurried steps, his thin hair shaped like a gourd, looking like an Indian. He moved slowly with each step. His thick, dark clothes made me curious to know what his shape was like underneath that black habit. Even if he was a future priest or friar, he was still an interesting man. I know I may be sinning by thinking this way, but he had something that made me want to know more about him. A mysterious look in which I wanted to discover. We stopped in front of a door in beige tones and a cross hanging. He opened the door with a key and turned to me, and I was so close to him that I could feel his breathing. Our eyes met for a minute. I looked at his pink lips, and he couldn't stop staring. His face flushed, and he looked away, feeling embarrassed, and said, "Here is your key and, well, I must warn you that on the other side of these walls is the cloister and employees are prohibited from entering. The only people who can pass through the door are the friars, and it is strictly forbidden to stay wandering the corridors of the monastery after 9 at night. Was I clear, Miss Alana?" This time he looked at me, and I responded, "Yes, of course. And I would like to apologize for the misunderstanding. Are you okay?" He smiled shyly, responding, "Don't worry, it's over. It was just a misunderstanding. I'm fine, and you can call me Brother Claudio." "Good, Alana. Welcome to our school. Have a good rest and see you tomorrow." "Thank you very much. Oh, before I forget, what time do I start tomorrow?" "Tomorrow staff breakfast starts at 8 a.m. and classes start at 9:30 a.m. "Thank you and see you tomorrow." Then he turned around and I watched him disappear down the hall with quick steps. Thank you very much for watching this far. Tell me in the comments what you think of this story, and see you in the next chapter. Bye.